The preseason has come to an end for the Buffalo Bills with a 31-26 loss to the Carolina Panthers. I'm sharing my top observations from the game today on Locked On Bills.
You are Locked On Bills, your daily Buffalo Bills podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Bills Mafia? It's Joe Marino, author of Go Bills and Buffalo's Run, also the co-host of the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast, and I'm your host of Locked On Bills. Want to thank you for making Locked On Bills your first listen every day, and a big welcome and shout out to our everydayers. You know who you are. Those of you who never miss a single episode, I appreciate y'all being here very, very much. I'd also like to invite you to subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Just visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. Well, folks, welcome in the preseason. Thank God is over. The Bills falling 31-26 to the Carolina Panthers on a beautiful Saturday afternoon at Highmark Stadium. And so we are going to reflect on my top observations from the game. Again, preseason, not really about the results. It's about how players performed. And so I want to discuss that with you here today on this podcast. We'll start by talking about the rushing offense. Then we'll get to the passing game. Then we'll talk defense and special teams. I want to start with the rushing offense because I thought that was really the highlight of the game for the Buffalo Bills. And we'll get to the passing offense, and I think the quarterbacks did a little more than I expected. But this rushing offense was extremely good. Wind up having 27 carries, 164 yards, over 6 yards per carry. The Bills running backs, if you take away the quarterback runs, Bills running backs over 5 yards per carry. Was a really good day. And I think it starts with the offensive line, of course. They created a ton of movement and displacement in the run game. If you watch the game, constantly Bills blockers on the other side of the line of scrimmage with no penetration from Carolina. I knew that Bears game in week 1 was fluky when it comes to this rushing offense. The timing just wasn't there. But boy, oh boy, did they respond the last couple of weeks. And it's collective, right? I know that today wasn't an opportunity to see the Bills starters, but I think there's a trickle-down effect here in terms of how the rushing offense is supposed to look and how the backup units respond to that as well. And, of course, the Bills' starting offensive line did a great job with run blocking last week against Pittsburgh. I thought there was just a few warts in pass protection. The big shining moment was Richard Garage. He was late reacting to the TE stunt. Him and Ryan Vandemark. Garage is supposed to slide down and pass off the tackle because the end's coming around. And he was late to get off of that stunt and gave up a sack. And then I think the other notable sack was given up by Zach Davidson in pass protection, and he's a tight end. So good overall day for this Bills offensive line, showcasing their depth. And that starting group for this game was Cedric Van Pran-Granger at center, the guards being Lyle Collins and Alec Anderson, your tackles being Tylen Grable and Ryan Vandemark. And I thought they were terrific. And the next unit was just fine as well. But the running backs also feasted off of this run blocking. And I thought both Frank Gore Jr. and Darrynton Evans showcased themselves extremely well. It was a big opportunity for them. You figured you wouldn't see James Cook, Ray Davis, or Ty Johnson running the ball in this game. And it would be a lot of Evans and a lot of Frank Gore Jr. Both played well. Unfortunately, both got hurt and couldn't finish the game. Hamstring injury for Darrynton Evans, knee injury for Frank Gore Jr., and Frank Gore took x-rays after the game. That's all we know about the status of those two players at this point in time. And you figure, at least one of them is going to be on this Bills practice squad. At least one, maybe both. We'll see if the injuries complicate that. But I think the good news is you felt good about watching both of them play. And really throughout the entire preseason. It wasn't just today. Both of them have had good preseasons. Frank Gore in this game, 18 carries, 101 yards, had a touchdown. I think you got a good chance to see his skill set. Very patient runner that works off of his blocks. He's tight with his cuts, very efficient runner. Finishes runs extremely well for a small back. And so that's what you get. I think he's got pretty good contact balance. I think what's missing with Frank Gore is speed, right? Like there was that one run kind of earlier in the game where the right side, just everything was caved down and Frank Gore had a clear path to break towards the sideline and get a big chunk. Boy, oh boy, did that turf disappear slowly. That linebacker had no issue getting an angle on him. And so that's kind of the big piece of where Gore's lacking. He just doesn't have much size and athleticism. But you like the style in which he runs. He's very compact, patient. All of that's very good. Just very, very modest. I mean, I wouldn't even say modest, poor. I would say poor physical traits for an NFL running back in terms of size and athleticism. With Darrynton Evans, he has 3 rushes for 15 yards, 3 catches for 28 yards, and a touchdown. So 6 touches, 43 yards, and a score. And he's got juice, right? Like in some ways, the exact opposite of Frank Gore, where Evans is able to just be really shifty and explosive and twitchy and has that breakaway ability about him. But maybe doesn't have the same level of physicality that a Frank Gore gives you. I guess for a third preseason game, it's a great tandem, right? Nice complementary skill sets. And so I'll be interested to see what happens, first of all, with their health. And then second of all, if the Bills keep one or both of them on the practice squad. It's an interesting decision to make ahead for the Buffalo Bills. And I could see the case for either one of those two players. All right, folks, here in just a second, we're going to talk quarterbacks, wide receivers, tight ends. But I do want to tell you about a new tradition that I'm very excited to be part of. It's the Rally at the River, presented by Colton RV and Marines. Rally on the River the day before kickoff festival at Buffalo River Works. You got to check this out. September 7th. I'm going live at 3 o'clock, doing a live podcast at Buffalo River Works. Saturday, September 7th, 3 o'clock. The Rally on the River. Can't wait for that. That's going to be fun. Getting a chance to do a live show. Hopefully there's great interaction and participation from people that attend. It's going to be fun, and it's going to be a big event, like a day-long event. There's free admission. It's a family-friendly event. You get the live podcast from me at 3 o'clock. There's also going to be performances from the Strictly Hip, Scott Solani, Tom Petty cover band, and Mark Christie of Flipside. There's a beer release party for Buffalo's first organic beer called OM, which stands for Organically Made. I've had a chance to try this beer. It's actually very, very good. There's going to be free tastings and giveaways on the new beer line. You got to try this. It's like, if you're interested in like very like clean, organic ingredients, this thing, that's what it is, but it also tastes very good. Check that out. There's a mechanical buffalo you can ride. There's all kinds of stuff. Local Buffalo vendors. 26 shirts is going to be there. The Totally Buffalo store. I mean, a lot of things going on. Plus, Chalk Fest is going on that day. This is a really cool thing where they have the grain silos there. There's tons of concrete. And all these chalk artists from the area are going to come in and draw things on there. And I saw some of the art a couple weeks ago when I was touring the facility. And I'm blown away by these drawings. And the theme of this Chalk Fest is authentically Western New York. So you can look at the chalk art. They've got amusement rides there. They've got kayaking, ziplining. It's an unbelievable property. Come hang out with me the day before kickoff festival, the Rally at the River, Buffalo River Works, Saturday, September 7th. There's a link in today's show notes. So if you want to check it out, there's a link to the Facebook event page in today's show notes. Come make us part of your kickoff weekend. I cannot wait for this event. That property, the Buffalo River Works, is one cool place, and I'm honored to be part of this new tradition. All right, folks, passing game stuff. We're talking about that on the other side of it. Be sure to stick with me. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. When your schedule is packed with kids' activities, big work projects, and more, it's easy to let your priorities slip. Even when we know what makes us happy, it'll be hard sometimes for us to make time for that. But when you feel like you have no time for yourself, non-negotiables like therapy are more important than ever. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. All you do is fill out a brief questionnaire. That'll get you matched with a licensed therapist. You can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Never skip therapy day with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOn today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOn. All right, let's talk quarterbacks, wide receivers, tight ends. Tell you what, these quarterbacks are a lot better than I expected. Ben DiNucci has like a week and a half on the team. Anthony Brown has just under a week on the team. And these guys came in and I thought they were okay, which I don't know. I didn't expect much out of them at all. DiNucci goes 11 of 15 for 76 yards and a touchdown. Anthony Brown goes 11 of 12 for 102 yards. And I think Joe Brady did a good job of giving them some like scheme throws, just get the ball out of their hands, make it easy for them to find some rhythm completions, and then some situations where they were able to roll outside the pocket and work on the move. And both of those guys are pretty decent athletes with good size, so you can definitely ask them to do that type of stuff. And I thought they functioned pretty well. And it's an important showcase for those players. Obviously, the Bills have roster spots available at quarterback, and not really roster spots, but like practice squad spots is what I should have said there. The quarterback 3 for this team is probably going to be one of those two guys. And I thought it was wise of Joe Brady to kind of give them an opportunity to showcase themselves, like play a little bit. I know things are going to be limited in terms of your knowledge of the system and time on task and chemistry with the receivers, but we're going to give you a chance. And I thought both of them functioned reasonably well. I mean, you're talking about an offensive performance where they scored 26 points, 21 first downs, 7 of 12 on third downs. It's not bad, right? It's not bad. And I think they both had their moments. Now, they both had their wild moments, too. Ben DiNucci rolling outside the pocket, throwing back across his body. He likes to get into some weird arm angles from time to time, you can tell. Anthony Brown, I don't think he had the goofy moments, but showcased his athleticism as well with a nice scramble. I think there was some positive flashes from both of these guys that makes you feel like you can at least get a quarterback 3 out of them. And that's really what the Bills need. We'll see what happens with QB2, what the timetable is on Trubisky, if the Bills wind up making a move, whether it's a trade or they sign somebody that gets cut. Plenty to pay attention to on that front over the coming days. But I thought these quarterbacks were reasonably good, all things considered. As for the wide receivers, I would say that they had moments, right? I thought that's kind of the overarching theme. They had moments in this game. Deon Cain, I thought he had some good moments. 3 catches for 28 yards, all of those being kind of quick passes to the perimeter. And on all 3 occasions, he made that first guy miss and got some yards after catch. He looked like Sammy Watkins out there, right? With the dreads, wearing that 14 jersey, kind of having that bigger, thicker build. Wasn't obviously Sammy, but I mean, come on, you thought it too, didn't you? So he was kind of fun to watch, and I thought at a minimum, made the most of this opportunity, and that's all he can do. Damiere Byrd, another late arrival to the wide receiver core, had a 20-yard catch, stiff-armed a dude, super competitive. Xavier Johnson, 2 targets, 2 catches for 18 yards. I thought KJ Hamler was his best in this game. Very competitive when he got the ball in his hands. And not just a couple of catches, but he ran the ball a few times as well. The Bills were out of running backs at the end of the game, and so he was able to run the ball a few times and did well for himself. And I thought he was very, very competitive. And obviously he had a drop earlier in the preseason and muffed the kick return, which is not great, but this was a much better showcase of his ability. And certainly you could see he was straining to try to make some plays, and that's a good thing. Tyrell Shavers has 2 catches for 25 yards. A lot of commentary about the red zone target, and here we are once again with somehow a controversial red zone play. I know that he cooked that corner, right? The double move, plenty of space, but he also misplayed that ball. Ben DiNucci put that ball exactly where it's supposed to be. All right, and Tyrell Shavers coming out of that break, he slows down. He doesn't track and get to the ball well enough. It's a very reasonable play for a wide receiver to make, and a perfectly fine throw by the quarterback. And I can understand why you might think it's the quarterback when a receiver is able to win the route like that and create that much space. But based on when the ball was released And where that ball's supposed to be, it was where it was supposed to be. Tyrell Shavers has to be able to run to that ball. And it wasn't like a difficult catch or anything like that. I'd expect him to make that play. So my blame is squarely on Tyrell Shavers. And it's a play he's got to make. It's a play he's got to make. I know that some people want to say it was a throw. It wasn't the throw, folks. I promise you it wasn't the throw. Tyrell Shavers got to make that play. As for the tight ends, I thought Zach Davidson and Trey McKitty both played well. Zach Davidson, 4 catches for 23 yards. He did get cooked by DJ Johnson on a pass pro rep. Gave up a sack, which that's the deal with Davidson, right? He's got some nice pass catching upside. You saw him make the one-handed catch, yards after catch. He's a nice little pass catcher, but some of the other things that are important for a tight end, blocking, not necessarily where he makes up a lot of ground. Trey McKitty had a catch for 20 yards, and then on the 2-point conversion, right, it was like a tip pass, and he was able to adjust and catch the ball, and was able to convert that. And so it's an interesting situation there with these tight ends. Obviously, Quentin Morris is the preferred tight end 3 for this team, but I think the Bills have a decision to make on Quentin Morris and understanding the severity of his shoulder injury, and if they're going to try to have him play through that or if they're going to shut him down with surgery, we'll find out. But if they do shut him down, one of these two guys is going to make the team, and they're going to dress. And my suspicion is that it's Trey McKitty, and that people are going to be upset about that because there's a lot to like about Davidson and his energy and the pass catching ability. But the tight end 3 role is really blocking and special teams, and I think McKitty probably has the edge there. And listen, I know that what you're thinking is like, well, the Bills run 12 personnel. If they want the pass catcher, they need Davidson. The Bills run 12 personnel because they have Kincaid and Knox. You saw it last year when they didn't have Kincaid and Knox, when either Kincaid or Knox was out, they didn't run 12 personnel nearly at the same level of frequency. They run 12 personnel specifically because they have Kincaid and Knox. When you take one of them out of the equation, that's not something that they want to tap into. So this is, when you talk about the receiving upside, it's definitely Davidson. Not that McKitty's a bad receiver, but the upside is with Davidson. But you're talking about the tight end 3 might be like aggressively a 10 target for the season type situation. Maybe. So we'll see how that shakes out. It'd be great if Quentin Morris was good to go. I don't know that that's going to be the case. Got more to learn on that front. All right, folks, we got a ton left to get to. All of the defense, special teams. We got to talk Tyler Bass. We know we got to talk Sam Martin, the returners. All of that's coming up here on the other side of it, folks. Be sure to stick with me. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals that you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't even visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. So hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, folks, defense and special teams the rest of the way here. Not a great day for the defense, right? Just not a whole lot of resistance. And that's what I'm trying to work through on the Locked On Bills subtext. You can join that. There's a link in today's show notes to join the Locked On Bills subtext where you get my kind of my drive-by-drive analysis on what's going on in real time. And it was hard to put together the text for defense because there just wasn't a lot of resistance. And you're trying to figure out, all right, who's getting cooked here? It was tough. Bills give up 31 points, 22 first downs. Panthers are 10 of 17 on possession downs, 414 yards, 6.4 yards per play, 340 passing yards to whoever the heck these quarterbacks. I know Bryce Young started the game. And then was it Jack Plummer coming in? These guys were getting what they wanted against this Bills defense. They're 3 for 3 in the red zone. Not a banner day for the defense, right? For the Bills. And I think that always starts up front. The defensive line was really, really quiet. And I was hoping to feel some guys a bit more. Deshaun Williams got plenty of run in this game. Kingsley Jonathan, Casey Tuhill. Casey Tuhill gets unblocked. That's a clear shot at a sack. And he whiffs because he doesn't go for the upfield shoulder. Like, come on, man. This was your chance to make a play. You couldn't do it. So you certainly hope to see. I mean, those guys have been rostered NFL players for the last few years. I was hopeful to feel more of their presence in this game. I don't think Dwayne Carter played, which is a good sign for Dwayne Carter. I think the Bills wind up rostering 4 defensive tackles: Oliver, Jones, Carter, and Johnson. But just was hoping for more collectively. I thought Branson Dean had some decent moments in terms of penetration style reps where he's able to get in the backfield and be a little bit disruptive, had some pressure. Gable Stevenson flashed a little bit with some of that same type of stuff. Rondell Bothard had a sack, which was a good play, but that's the first thing he's done yet. Cameron Klein's a player that I want to like. He had a tackle for loss in this game. I think he's got some power elements to his game and a decent run defender, but he's such a segmented and slow burn pass rusher that it's hard to really buy in on that guy. So quiet day for the defensive line, which unsurprisingly means a pretty bad day for the Bills defense. Linebackers, not a great day, right? I feel like the Bills were getting really worked in the middle of the field in the passing game, and I think that speaks to linebackers and safeties. Joe Andreessen completely out of position on that first touchdown was a tight end over the middle of the field. Was it Matthews or Thomas? I can't remember, but he just completely buzzes down into the flats, vacates the space behind him that he's responsible for. And Bryce Young throws a touchdown pass and they're all excited about it. But I mean, honestly, anybody could have threw that touchdown pass. Joe Andreessen just buzzed completely out of his spot. So I think you saw some of his shortcomings in coverage and certainly was not nearly as impactful as we saw last week against Pittsburgh. And look, I'm sure last week he benefited a bit from what was around him and certainly not as quality of talent playing with him. And so you can't really deny last week in terms of the quick downhill trigger against the run. The way he played off contact was really good. But what I think is fair to say about Joe Andreessen, and we'll study the tape and figure it out, but he definitely didn't double down, right, based on the live watch. So we'll see what that means for his overall resume that he's built to this point to make this roster. Seems like we got a nice extended look at Edefwan Ulofoshio, who certainly flashed a couple of times to me. He's a guy that when I go back and watch the tape tomorrow, he'll be a high priority for me to look at and kind of get a feel for what he was able to do in this game. And it looked like a rough go for Deion Jones, who I think played the first couple of series. I saw him get blasted out of one run fit, but I certainly didn't see enough to really assess, although it didn't feel like it was a good performance in real time. And I'm pretty sure those are the only 3 linebackers the Bills played in this game. If I'm not mistaken, they only played Andreessen, Ulofoshio, and Deion Jones. I'm not sure a single other one played. So we'll confirm that and check out the tape, but didn't feel like a strong performance from the linebackers. Let's get to cornerbacks. How about Daequan Hardy? Continues to be a bright spot. They challenged him down the field one-on-one. He had a pass breakup, tight coverage, carrying that vertical route. Had a tackle for loss as well. The dude's a baller. I love the way he plays. I love how he competes. And he's been a real revelation for this team. If you remember, one of the things that I said going into the spring and summer was I thought the Bills needed more competition for that CB4 spot outside, right? Like Jamarcus Ingram was pretty much being handed the job behind Kaiir Elam. And the only meaningful, air quotes, meaningful competition was Kyron Brown. You saw what that guy is. I mean, he got cooked again in this game, this time for a touchdown. The receiver and quarterback was able to hook up for that play, but he got absolutely dusted in coverage. That was the only real contender for CB4. And now we've seen, in terms of outside threats, we've seen now Daequan Hardy emerge, and you feel decent about him and Ingram and Elam behind your starters in Benford and Douglas. So Daequan Hardy's emergence at corner is a big deal. We'll talk about the special teams version of him in just a moment, but he continues to impress me. I already mentioned Kyron Brown getting absolutely cooked. Corey Couch, slot corner, played a ton in this game. I think he continues to flash from the slot, had some nice tackles in space, had a sack. I think he's certainly earned himself a strong consideration for a practice squad gig at the minimum. I mean, I don't think he's going to make the active roster, but when I say at a minimum, I mean to make that practice squad and kind of be on a path that, we'll see what happens in future years. The Bills have, whether it's been Jamarcus Ingram, it seems like this year, or Cam Lewis in years past, they've had this little pipeline going from the practice squad, and maybe Corey Couch can do that. But we'll see what the tape says more on these corners. I know Kaiir Elam played early in this game. I know Jamarcus Ingram played as well, and so I want to kind of get more familiar with what they did after watching the tape. At safety, Kareem Jackson flashed with a few nice tackles in space. I'm not sure how that's going to shake out at safety. It feels like the Bills are going to want their safeties to be Rapp, Hamlin, Bishop, Edwards, and then Cam Lewis is probably like a safety slot hybrid. I don't know that there's space on this roster for a Kareem Jackson or anyone like that. Kendall Williamson continues to be like on the wrong end of bad plays for the Bills. Missed a tackle on the glance route touchdown, I think, to Terrence Marshall. And he was late to close on another touchdown, if I'm not mistaken. So he's just always fooled up and has made some big mistakes so far this preseason. Let's get to special teams. Obviously, the big conversation is Tyler Bass, made from 31, missed from 51. He made his extra point, but I mean, even when he made that extra point, it was from the left hash, and the ball's just on this just flaring right trajectory. He's just not hitting the ball pure. And then he missed the landing zone on a kickoff, and that means the Panthers get the ball at the 40. So I know this is technically his first miss of the preseason, but you read the practice reports just like I do. I mean, he goes 4 of 6 seemingly every day with all kinds of misses from 40, 41 yards all the time. Every day it feels like. Now, one thing I do want to clarify, because I've gotten enough questions from people that I feel like I need to say this out loud. When you hear that Tyler Bass goes 4 of 6, don't think to yourself that, oh my God, he's only attempting 6 field goals in practice. Those are just referring to the team drills where 11 on 11 is doing practicing the kick field goals, right? Tyler Bass kicks tons of field goals off to the side during individual work, right? So I compare this to like Josh Allen. You might read that Josh Allen went 8 of 10 in team. He didn't throw just 10 balls during the practice. That was just the team drills. He threw 50 other passes in individual and 7-on-7 work. So same type of thing with Tyler Bass. If you hear he goes 4 for 6, those are just the reps that are in team drills. He does a lot of kicking off to the side otherwise. So bottom line here is there's just a lot to be concerned about with Tyler Bass. The way he finished last season, weight training camp is gone. Now he has a miss in the game. And we'll see what type of leash the Bills have on him. Moving on is very costly. The Bills would lose $7.4 million in cap space this year and next. And that's tough. And I know that people are going to say, well, if the Bills cared about dead cap space, they wouldn't make the Stephon Diggs trade. Well, I'm not sure that's a 1-for-1 thing. It's certainly worthwhile to point to, but I just want you to calibrate your expectations that there's a good chance the Bills just continue with Tyler Bass. And it's because of the contract. And the reality is, if you're going to move on from Tyler Bass, you have to feel confident that you're going to upgrade that spot. And there are teams in the NFL every year that have massive kicking problems. And it looks like the Bills could be one of those teams this year. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. But your path to improving is hard to identify. And on top of that, if you make a change, it costs you basically $7.5 million in cap space this year and next. It's a tough pill to swallow. The best outcome would be that Tyler Bass is the kicker for the Bills and he's awesome. I understand that you're concerned about that. I am too. But if you move on from Tyler Bass and you eat that cap space, boy, oh boy, you better be right. And that kicker you bring in, he better clearly be better. It's a complicated situation. But you heard Sean McDermott say after the game, like earlier this week, he was asked about Tyler Bass during his press conference, and he said, look, I understand the questions, but I'm confident with where he's at. I like the way he's striking the ball, et cetera, et cetera. He said all the right things. Then today, after this miss in the game, the reporter said, look, I understand it's not a chip shot, but he missed from 51. He goes, yeah, that's a pass that Tyler Bass that's a kick that Tyler Bass needs to make. Tyler knows that. He's going to practice that kick 1,000,000 times this week in practice. Felt a little bit more direct as opposed to kind of giving the confidence play that he did earlier in the week. It's a complicated situation. I think Sam Martin's been terrific this preseason, by the way. 3 punts today, 50-yard average. 1 goes out of bounds at the 3. I think he's been awesome. And oh, by the way, I want to clarify something right now. He has 0 culpability in Tyler Bass not making field goals. 0. Tyler Bass had the best season of his career with Sam Martin as the holder, and Sam Martin has held for 2 other all-pro kickers during some of their best seasons. Like, what are we talking about? Just, you don't have to blame something else. Tyler Bass has to be better. The holding is fine. Sam Martin, in his 10th year, whatever the heck it is, didn't suddenly forget how to hold after a very good career as a holder. So I feel very confident with Sam Martin. Obviously, the concerns are with Sam Martin. From the return situation today, Daequan Hardy, I think his growth as a decision maker was notable today. You saw him get a chance to field a punt around the 5-yard line, and he let it go, right? He did the fair catch, step forward, let the hit the ground. The Bills got a touchback. And you also saw on a kickoff return opportunity, he was wise to let the ball go out of bounds because that means the Bills get the ball at the 40. So 2 great decisions today from Daequan Hardy, which is notable growth from what we saw in the first 2 preseason games. And then also on special teams, I thought it was notable that Ty Johnson had that first kick return opportunity in the game. I like that role for him a lot. I'm a big proponent of, with this new kickoff return situation, you need contact balance, you need vision, and you need some speed. And I think that you got to be able to break a tackle. And I'm surprised that you're seeing so many like smaller receivers and DBs get these opportunities. I want a running back that can break a tackle and then get down the field. I think that's what you have to beat that first wave somehow. And it's a lot tighter of a situation. So I think contact balance really matters. And so Ty Johnson's a guy that I was excited to see that role. I would put Johnson and Hardy back there if it was me making that decision. But I thought it was notable that he got the first opportunity to return a kick in this game. All right, folks, there you have it. My initial reaction to the Bills and their performance against the Panthers to close out the preseason. And boy, we got a lot to do from here. Got all 22 review to do, and then the Bills are going to make a bunch of roster moves over the next few days. Cuts are due by 4:00 on Tuesday. There's going to be a lot to talk about there. There'll be a lot to talk about in terms of what the initial 53 looks like. And then the Bills got a game to get ready for against the Arizona Cardinals. So plenty to do here on this podcast. Stick with me for the ride, folks. Make sure that you're subscribed. Would love it if you took a second to rate, review, and share the podcast. Again, link in today's show notes for the Rally on the River and, of course, the Locked On Bills subtext community. Appreciate you being here, folks. Go Bills. I look forward to catching up with you again real soon.